The Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura, California, presents a homily by our minister, the Reverend Dana Worsnop, titled Way Beyond Normal, recorded on Sunday morning, October 17th, 2021.
Good morning. I know there aren't a bunch of you out there, but good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. And welcome to worship with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura. I am the Reverend Dana Worsnop, minister, happily, gloriously the minister of this congregation, and it is a delight to welcome you all here. We are expanding the ways our services are reaching folks. Some are here in the sanctuary, and we've also got a monitor set up outside for that folks are gathered round and out in the fresh air and also joining via Zoom. And then there are people who are okay. So they're gathered around a monitor out there, outside, and I want to say hello to you. And also there are folks who are joining us remotely from great distances and short ones on Zoom and YouTube. So to you all, I say a howdy. It is a new world. And we have moved so quickly, far beyond what we would have called normal. We would have called normal less than 2 years ago. It's a new world in so many ways. Just a couple of quick announcements. Our auction is less than a week away. It is Saturday, October 23rd. The live auction part begins at 3:30 next Saturday. Please RSVP so the taco truck will know how many people to prepare for. And then the auction will continue on beyond that online. And if you have anything to donate to the online auction, that deadline is the 20th. And sooner than that would be better for the people who are doing the auction. Do not use your minister's example. I have an item that I am going to donate to the auction, another one, and I have not done it yet. So get ahead, beat me to that punch, please. And also in 2 Sundays, we will be having an outdoor, all generations tree of remembrance ritual service. It'll be outdoors in back, and we're just inviting the whole community to gather together on that Sunday. So keep that one in mind. So let us now bring ourselves together in this space, whatever space you currently occupy. Arrive fully wherever you are. Arrive fully whoever you are, and let us enter sacred space.
I am Worship Associate Celia Ortenberg, and we invite those of you who are Zooming or streaming into this service to light a chalice or a candle at home as Reverend Dana lights the chalice of our free faith here in the sanctuary. We began our service this morning with these words from Erica Hewitt, from Reverend Erica Hewitt. The chalice that we just lit is a symbol of Unitarian Universalists, which arose as a beacon of hope in an atmosphere of tyranny. The chalice arose as a sign of promise that the marginalized would neither be forgotten nor ignored, because they are beloved and precious from the perspective of the holy. This morning, we remember all of the people who have been told explicitly or implicitly through police violence or government policy, through derision or dehumanization, that they're anything less than whole, anything less than beloved. As we light a chalice in our homes, may we make of our lives a beacon, a symbol of our promise to draw the circle wide, a sign that we will not rest until all means all. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Carolyn Bjerke, the music director. I'd like to invite you to join me in singing our opening hymn, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Please rise in body or spirit, and the words will be on the screens. We'll sing it 2 times through.
I love how the Brits don't speak of math in the singular as a single area of study. Rather, they talk about maths, plural. It makes sense. After all, it's a shortening of the word mathematics. And there are several branches of mathematics. There is no set taxonomy. So one of the sources I checked said there were 5 main branches of mathematics, and then only listed 4, which I thought was pretty funny. But in general, there are around 3 main major branches of mathematics: arithmetic, algebra, and geometry. There is no the taxonomy is indeed not settled about maths, and those branches then split off from there to include trigonometry, probability and statistics, number theory, set theory, game theory, and more. As a student, I was always very good at arithmetic. I was pretty good at geometry, and yet the higher maths just didn't grab hold of me. Though I have since learned very practical skill in maths, like statistics and understanding them, which is very useful in our world. Now, I was also a 3rd grade teacher, and I gotta tell you, I was a whiz at teaching arithmetic, which is pretty much the only of the maths that we teach in the lower grades. And by golly, I have my times tables down. And if you want to know the nines trick that you do on your hands, I will be happy to demonstrate at any time I see you. It's something that I didn't know when I was in third grade, but wow, it's helpful for getting the nines, which are among the toughest of those times tables. Given all of this, I was fascinated recently to learn about the 19th century Belgian statistician Adolphe Quetelet, who was the inventor of the concept of l'homme moyen, or average man. Quetelet wanted to be the next Sir Isaac Newton, who was his hero. And he started out as an astronomer. He was on course, really. The career was going just as he had plotted it, when a revolution broke out in Europe, which sent his original academic plans right onto the rails. Todd Rose, who teaches at Harvard's Graduate School of Education, tells of Quetelet's intellectual journey in his book, The End of Average: How We Succeed in a World that Values Sameness. Quetelet was shaken by the revolution, which upended a stable society in which he could pursue science without concern for politics or the greater society, writes Rose. Quote, Quetelet found himself longing for a stable government that passed sensible laws and policies that would prevent the sort of social chaos that had derailed his career plans. There was just one glaring problem. Modern society seemed utterly unpredictable. Human behavior did not appear to follow any discernible rules. Just like the universe had seemed so indecipherable before Isaac Newton discovered the law of gravity, which gave a framework to how the world worked. Quetelet now wondered if he could apply the maths that he had used in astronomy to identify hidden patterns in the heavens, rather the maths that he used to identify in his astronomy the hidden patterns in the heavens, to find now hidden patterns in the apparent chaos of social behavior. And therein lies the rub. Quetelet's innovation was to take the concept of averages that he used in astronomical measurements and apply them to human behavior. He started his quest with a database from a medical journal that listed the chest circumference of 5,738 Scottish soldiers. This then is pretty basic arithmetic. Add all of the measurements and then divide by 5,738 and you get the average, which was 39 3/4 inches. This got Quetelet going, and he began measuring and averaging all sorts of parts of the human body. All interesting information, though the trouble is not in the hard numbers, but in how we interpret them, which is another skill. Interpreting the hard numbers is another skill that lots of us have to learn and keep learning. It is a skill that lies indeed beyond mathematics themselves. Yet from his data, Quetelet invented the idea of the average man, which he essentially interpreted as the perfect man. And yes, I retain the original gendered language deliberately. As he saw it, Rose continues, this average was a kind of cosmic template for human beings. Any deviance from the average was simply a naturally occurring error. For Quetelet, the average man was perfection itself, an idea that nature aspired to that was free from error. He declared that the greatest men in history were closest to the average man of their time and place. You can see immediately how insidious this got. The social engineering that can arise from simple, basic maths, or maybe not so simple, basic maths. Taking the average of something is so useful, though average then quickly in this culture, our modern culture, average quickly became synonymous with normal. And therein lies one of the problems. The template for the normal human was, of course, the Western European man, which meant that women who deviate from the measurements of men then become considered another error and lesser than, and on that goes, on and on that has gone even to this very day. And though the concept of taking averages is so basic to us, now Quetelet was hailed as a genius in his time. He influenced, for good and ill, science and sociology for years to come. And he was perhaps as famous in his day as he wished to be, though his name has not lived on quite the way Sir Isaac Newton's has. The author Rose concludes, this marked the moment when average became normal. The individual became error, and stereotypes were validated with the imprint of science. These assumptions would eventually prompt generations of parents to worry if their child did not develop according to average milestones. Anyone? And cause almost everyone to feel anxiety when their health, their social life, or career deviated too far from the average. Too far from what then is translated as normal. And so today I invite us all to consider going way beyond normal.
Wow. Each Sunday, this congregation gives away our collection to an organization in the larger community or to funds that help people in our own church. Those at home have two ways to give, through the link posted in the chat and by texting from your phone at 844-901-1779. Folks present can text to give, or you can still write a check or give cash and drop it in the basket at the rear of the sanctuary after the service. Our offering today goes to the Ventura Community Partners Foundation to rebuild Arroyo Verde Park's playground as Ventura County's first inclusive playground. The park's previous play structure was completely destroyed in the Thomas Fire. needing to rebuild the community, decided to take on the challenge of turning a disaster into something life-changing for children with disabilities. To rebuild Playground Arc features brand new inclusive play structures where children of all abilities can play. Your donations will provide appropriate surfacing, play equipment, and the amenities needed to make this inclusive playground a reality. Thank you for giving generously, as you always do.
Sing a song, sing out loud, sing out strong, sing of good things, not bad, sing of happy, not sad, sing a song, make it simple to last your whole life long. Don't worry that it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. Just sing a song. La 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 la. La 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 la. Sing a song. Let the world sing along. Sing of love there could be. Sing for you and for me. Sing a song. Make it simple to last your whole life long. Don't worry that it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. Just sing a song. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
We are grateful for the generosity of this congregation, which is part of the energy that expands our embrace to weave a tapestry of love, a rich, glorious, beautiful, many-colored tapestry of love we call community. Thank you.
When we gather on Sundays, we take time to hold up the great joys and sorrows that grace our lives. We place stones in the water for both the celebrations and the sorrows in our hearts, making ripples that are felt throughout our community, deepening the connections that are felt between us, whether we are together or apart. I invite all of you now to speak into the gathered community or to write words into the Zoom chat, the names of those you wish to celebrate, memorialize, or those in need of the loving embrace of this beloved community. Reverend Dana will now place one final stone into the water for all the joys and sorrows yet unspoken in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. May we be truly grateful for all that is our life.
Singing our next hymn, How Could Anyone? How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
We offer a reading in two voices this morning from Nobel laureate Wisława Szymborska, a word on statistics. Out of every 100 people,
Those who always know better, 52. Unsure of every step, nearly all the rest.
ready to help, as long as it doesn't take too long, 49.
Always good because they cannot be otherwise, 4. Well, maybe 5.
Able to admire without envy, 18.
Led to error by youth, which passes, 60 plus or minus.
Those not to be messed with, 40 plus 4.
Living in constant fear of someone or something, 77.
Capable of happiness, 20-some odd at most.
Harmless alone, turning savage in crowds, more than half for sure.
Cruel when forced by circumstances. It's better not to know, not even approximately.
Wise in hindsight, not many more than those wise in foresight.
Getting nothing out of life but things, 30. Although I'd like to be wrong.
Doubled over in pain without a flashlight in the dark, 83 sooner or later.
Those who are just, quite a few at 35. But if it takes effort to understand, 3.
Worthy of empathy, 99.
Mortal, 100 out of 100, a figure that has never varied yet.
I invite you now into a time of meditation and stillness. Find your center. Where does it lie in your body? Where do you find your center upon the earth? Relax what tension you can. Let go and seek the wisdom you find in the center, the centeredness of your being. A silent meditation.
I'm writing a new ending with a better storyline. I'll turn the page and leave the blanks with a plot that's less defined. And though I won't get back a day of stolen time, I can go to bed at night with a better storyline. Leave what can't be changed in the past. Let the old house burn down and the wind scatter the ash. Forgive myself for all the broken glass, for what I didn't know how to say or ask. I'm writing a new ending with a better storyline. Turn the page and leave the blanks with a plot that's less defined. And though I won't get back a day of stolen time, I can go to bed at night with a better storyline. Here's the scene when I lost my map, when the breadcrumbs blew away and there was no way back. Just the compass of my heart to light the path, seen only in the dark, flash to lightning flash. I'm writing a new ending with a better storyline. Turn the page and leave the blanks with a plot that's less defined. And though I won't get back a day of stolen time, I can go to bed at night with a better storyline. There are stories shaped like stones, the ones our hearts have always known, the ones we finally call our own. Down where the spirit meets the bone, I'm ending where another story starts. At the edges I can grow, even when they're razor sharp. I'm grateful for the words that I bookmarked before I ever knew I'd need them for this part. I'm writing a new ending a better storyline. Turn the page and leave the blanks with a plot that's less defined. And though I won't get back a day of stolen time, I can go to bed at night with a better storyline.
A new ending.
Better storyline.
A new ending.
Better
storyline.
Yay, thank you. That is a song by Carrie Newcomer. So thank you, Kent and Sue, and thank you, Carrie. So I actually have a more optimistic view of human nature than Wisława Szymborska. Love her poem, and statistically, I think more people are good and have good in them than she appears to believe, and that we are less likely to behave badly, though lately that view might be adjusting a little bit on my part. Yet as a universalist, I have to say that 100% of us, 100%, are worthy of compassion. Though I will also admit that there are people in my life, in the world, that make that a little harder sometimes. Yet I find her poetic statistics more evocative and nuanced than averages. For we are all a mix of so many qualities that vary all over the map, and the graphs and the bell curves and all the other ways we have found to find and perhaps even sometimes impose patterns upon what it means to be humans. I have lost the reference long ago, but when I was in seminary, I remember coming across the term normal neurotic in a textbook. And it was like a gift from God. It's normal to be neurotic. Because we all got our issues. Maybe you have a tendency toward anxiety, while I struggle a little bit more with the depression side of things. Our neuroses may not be the most effective adaptations that we have found to living our lives, but there is not a single one of us. Szymborska didn't put this into her statistics, but there's not a single one of us who isn't sometimes defensive or codependent or controlling or fill in your own blank. The trouble has always been when we constrict the breadth of human expression into a narrow range of a small deviance from the center and what is considered average and normal. We have become so focused on that narrow center that sometimes I feel like we pathologize all kinds of human behavior, which really falls into a normal range. Normal has become a kind of tyranny. It's always been that since we came up with the concept of normal, although sometimes it feels like it is so much more heightened and focused and toxic when it ends up on social media. So discouraging to discover how many young girls feel They compare themselves to others on Instagram, young girls in particular, but all of us compare themselves to others on Instagram and just feel like they are not cutting it. And actually, as I described, it's a very new concept, this normal, this average. It's new in human history. As hard as that might be for us to wrap our well-trained Western mindset around. Really, before the Enlightenment and the advent of social sciences, folks viewed humans and human expression as chaotic and mysterious, unfathomable. Theologically, what became the main branch of Christianity saw all this chaos as innately fallen or sinful, born into sin. Now, Buddhism sees the same chaotic human beingness, yet holds it not as sinful, but as suffering, as something that innately good human beings fall into that cause us our suffering. A suffering which in Buddhism is as much self-inflicted as anything. Average and normal as applied to human behavior and expression and bodies is really a modern concept. And we all are liberated when we tear down that narrow gate of normal and broaden the pathway. And when we then can live our lives way beyond normal. It is, for instance, perfectly normal that some of us find ourselves to be transgender. There have been transgender people since we became people. It is one of the ways that human beings manifest. Is it common? Well, not exactly yet. Studies, the most recent I could find were from 2016, studies that estimated the proportion of Americans who identify as transgender as being between 0.5 and 0.6%, which would put the number of transgender Americans at 1.4 million adults. Now, many LGBTQ activists suspect that such surveys represent a distinct undercount because many transgender people stay closeted due to transphobia and discrimination. And yet, even if that number, that percentage is 2 to 3 times larger than currently measured, it still is a small percentage of the population. Okay, it is still that, but it's also still millions and millions of people. It is one of a vast array of human expressions. Now, some indigenous cultures in America honored transgender humans in their midst. They honored them, calling them people of two spirits, knowing that they carry a particular kind of wisdom and beauty and expression that has gifts for us all. Each Sunday, we acknowledge the ancient provenance of the lands that we now occupy. In Ventura, these lands were for millennia occupied, lived upon by the Chumash peoples. We do this to remember that this land is not ours. It is a place that people have lived in for centuries and years and years and years. And yet we do this to recognize that there is a wisdom that colonialism nearly wiped out. A wisdom that we yet have time to learn. COVID time and the climate crisis have made me more sensitive and resistant to the whole concept of normal. I am so weary of phrases like getting back to normal, or I think even worse, discovering a new normal. If I could ban the word from the lexicon for a while, I would. Let's just take that word off the table. It was Warren Harding who won the 1920 presidential election following the twin cataclysms of World War I and the 1918 pandemic. He won that election under the slogan, "A return to normalcy," which drove some people a little bonkers at the time because he essentially made up the word, though it is now fully a part of our language. It still drives some of us a little bit bonkers. Yet, it actually worked for a little while. It took, 9 years for the next cataclysm, the worst modern economic depression, to fall upon the world. And truly, the idea of normal is an invented social construct. It can be a useful one, though I would say it does more harm than good. So let's ban it from our vocabulary for, 5 years. Let's just put it out there somewhere. Let's give it up and be free. Let's live way beyond normal. Now, last Monday was National Coming Out Day, which social media, which does have its gifts to us, kind of expanded into National Coming Out Week. So what if we all come out of whatever closets we've put ourselves into in fear that we have deviated too far from averages and norms? I say this not to co-opt an important and powerful day for the LGBTQ community, but to acknowledge a wider scope of human expression for us all. 4, how could anyone ever tell you you are less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? And that is what normal can do. Yet you are beautiful. You are whole. You are connected to all of humanity, all of creation, just as you are. You delightful, normal neurotics, you. We are in such a time of upheaval and transition, hearkening back to a previous and mythical time of normalcy will just make it all harder. We have a chance to write a new ending to a better storyline. as Kent and Sue sang to us. We can leave some of the pages still blank. In fact, it's actually a good practice to leave them blank because we're writing the story as we're going. Or as Indiana Jones said, we're making it up as we go along. So let's leave some pages blank and learn to be open to a plot that is less defined. This may be the biggest spiritual lesson of our times. Yes, I know how much we want to be able to plan our lives and know what's coming next. We never really can do that, though in times that have been in the past more predictable, and they were, things often did actually seem to turn out mostly the way we wanted them to, more often than not, or so it seemed. And the thing is, it's not just COVID that has flipped things on our head. Indeed, the unsettledness that we feel has so much more to do with climate change. The weather averages that we have been compiling for the last couple of centuries are less and less meaningful, less and less useful with each passing season. And it's going to be unsettled and unstable, and we're going to have a cool summer in Ventura like we did this summer, while other parts of the country and the globe bake. And then we'll have bigger storms that arise in this place and tornadoes that show up in places they never showed up before, but then they don't ever again. It's just not going to settle into a pattern that's really recognizable for a very long time in our lifetimes. It's just that unsettled. And it is disconcerting, to say the least, when the breadcrumbs that we put out meant to show us the way back have all blown away, or the birds ate them. And the truth is, we can never really go back anyway, whether the breadcrumbs were actually stuck around or not. All we have, as Carrie Newcomer wrote, is the compass of our hearts to find our path. So where is the compass of your heart pointing? Where do you find a center that helps you navigate through uncertain times? Where do you find your communities of people who hold your hands and help you navigate and walk together on what is now a wide open path that is full of so much possibility and so many different new ways to be, to express ourselves, so many new things that we can create when we remember that the nature of the universe, of the world, is chaos, as we talked about last Sunday. But also, there is so much mystery and possibility, and that we blow open some of the doors that we closed shut in our lives and in the world. That we can move newly in the world and create that kind of newness, that kind of world we have longed for forever, that is just and kind and good and has the widest embrace of human expression, human merely being possibilities ever. So let us indeed write a new story with a better ending. Be normal. Don't be normal. Be all of who you are. Show up and live and breathe and be together in love and peace and possibility. Amen. And may it be so. So will you now please join me in prayer? Holy beingness of many names and no name, holy mystery beyond all naming, spirit of life which dwells within and among and beyond us this day and always. May we know that each and every one of us is holy and precious, that the earth we live upon is holy and precious. May we remain open to unpredictable manifestations of humanity, of goodness, joy, love, power, possibility. May we hang on to one another as we find our way in the dark. And may we widen the circle again and again until we can truly say that all means all. And may all those who are ill find healing. May those who are in despair find hope. May those who are without shelter find home. And may all those suffering in conflict and war throughout the world, may we know peace. Amen, and blessed be.
Please rise in body or spirit and join me in our closing hymn, Come and Go With Me.
Please join me in speaking these words in unison. Then Reverend Davina will extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. those we carry into our hearts until we are together again.
Please remain standing for the benediction. Yay! And if you are on Zoom, please join in breakout rooms. I'm going to try to zip on there with some of you as well, because we still get to do that too. And if you have cash for our offering, you may place it in the basket, and you can still text and give whenever you are so called. I leave you today with words from A. Powell Davies. None of our private worlds is big enough for us to live a wholesome life in. We need the wider world of joy and wonder, of purpose and venture, of toil and tears. What are we, any of us, but strangers and sojourners, forlornly wandering through the nighttime until we draw together and find the meaning of our lives in one another. Dissolving our fears in each other's courage, making music together, and lighting torches to guide us through the dark. We belong together. Love is what we need to love and be loved. Let our hearts be open, and what we would receive from others, let us give. For what is given still remains to bless the giver when the gift is love. Let us together write a new story with a better ending. Go forth in love. Go forth in peace. Go forth in the fullness of your human being. May it be so.
We hope you've enjoyed Way Beyond Normal, presented by the Reverend Dana Worsnop, recorded on October 17th, 2021 for the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura, California.